Today I'm joined with two fantastic guests, Lisa Pickney and Faye Coleman. How are you today?
Fantastic.
Excellent. Faye, where are you located?
I'm in Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Cherry Hill, New Jersey.
Yeah, right outside of Philly.
Got it. And Lisa, where are you located today?
I am actually located in Smyrna, Georgia. It's a suburb of Atlanta.
Awesome.
You could say that AI will essentially be the disruptor of our industry as we look at logistics, demand planning, lab testing or compliance, intelligent marketing, personalization. And of course, I think you alluded to a little earlier in terms of chatbots and all those things that are going on. But I believe if you're first going to look to incorporate AI, you have to ask yourself, what's the problem? What are you solving for? And not just take AI on the surface for what it is. But if you truly understand your business, I think the answers can be found in the service, the compliance, as well as the inventory and the staffing.
You brought up an interesting point. I think you expressed a need in that regulatory space. And both of you have mentioned bad actors. And so can we drill into that a little bit?
I think the major culprits in the dispensary, and I'm just going to, of course, hang out in the dispensary world, are around misinformation. As you talk about misinformation, which can come in the form of information that's outdated, missing, or just plain false. It can come from falsified lab reports, where toxins go unreported or THC levels could be under or overstated, or manufacturers may not have appropriate certifications or licenses, which of course can lead to what? Dispensaries placing dangerous products on the shelf and becoming a health risk to customers or patients, or ordering products that don't meet the customer's needs. So you've got that in terms of misinformation. And then you look at compliance. With compliance, it's another challenge because if you look at it in a couple of ways, right? One, you got to look at it in terms of your reputation could be at risk if you receive a letter from the FDA, as Lisa has told me. It's hard to keep pace with regulations, which they're always changing. Fines and fees are always increasing in size. Your product may be aging and may expire, so you have to be strategic with discounts to minimize price erosion, which can ultimately erode your margins. And then you've got the compliance. And then it comes down into, as we all know on social media, one wrong word can bring your business to a stop. So compliance is critical, but it's also costly. And then as you look at inventory management, another area that can bring your business to a full stop is understanding, of course, it's your largest COGS or your cost of goods sold in your business based on how well you demand plan, which is based heavily on how well you forecast, understanding lead times, your safety stock, your product costs, and most important, product movement or your sell through, which is heavily based on how well you educate your team on product knowledge as well as customer and patient engagement. Of course, the goal being to limit your inventory carrying costs while satisfying your customers and your patients.
Awesome. Lisa, did you want to add on to that?
Yeah, just the points that kind of resonate with me is the compliance piece. For me, what I've seen, unfortunately, in the industry, definitely with the laboratory compliance, I was totally shocked a year and a half ago when I found out that people may be reporting lab testing that is not true. I was just shocked. I was like frozen for 2 to 3 months. And I was like, no, you can't do that. And me coming from the regulatory environment, I spent a few years in the federal government, and it's just never entered into my mind. But then I have to step back and look at the industry we're in. There are no national guidelines. We're only trying to comply with state guidelines. But when you alter laboratory testing results just to ensure that you're more profitable or your client is more profitable and they can sell their products, that to me bothers me because that impacts the health of the patient. I couldn't believe that is happening in this industry. So those are bad actors for sure. And another thing that I just, and maybe I'm just pie in the sky, I have rose-colored glasses on, is these applications that people are writing at the state level to get the licenses. People are saying anything in these applications and they can't fulfill what they're putting in the applications. That bothers me as well. They are taking information from other people's applications, dumping it into their applications, putting it forward, and then they may get a license, and then they still can't fulfill what they said they were going to fulfill. So stuff like that, it's just a different industry. This is where we are, and it just takes you a minute to snap out of it and say, this is really happening. And I think twisting this around, can AI help with that? Maybe it can. Maybe it could be a positive tool that we can utilize, or the states can utilize when reviewing applications. If you notice that 5 out of the 20 applicants have the same answer for question number 6, 7, and 8, why should they get points for it? Because most of the apps are points based. So maybe that's a tool that can be used there.
On the opportunities, we're not quite there, but I think AI can help with the data collection, with the shadowing of decision makers, and providing the necessary tools so that we can have the capabilities and the capacity to operate at a next level that's beyond what we can do. And that's the whole point.
I'm going to present a question from a future perspective, but before I go there, as far as the talent and skill sets, right? You talked about the different roles and the quality of the individual. Are they sufficiently trained, skilled? What are they bringing to the table? Are there specific needs in the industry right now, on the dispensary side, on the regulatory side, that you're looking for or looking to expand into?
Yes, consistency with education. I think that's the number one challenge within our industry, top to bottom. I don't care what you look at, whether it's engaging with the customer on service and product selection, or it's through your optimization of your operations, through inventory management. All of that takes education, right? And good systems. But education. And I think it's very lacking. I think there are some operations who have significant budget to invest more on the education side than others. I also think there are some organizations who have the budget to do more and don't. So the inconsistency is unfortunately the challenge to allowing us to have a best-in-class industry as up and down the supply chain as it relates to the business. I would just say the number one challenge is education.
Okay.
My thought is assess and assimilate the research that has already been performed in the field of medical cannabis in order to draw specific conclusions and be able to present it on the federal, national level. Because one thing that I've heard, and when I first got into this industry, is, there's just not enough research. There just isn't enough research for us to make these decisions regarding using cannabis for these disease states, whether it's aiding with cancer, end-stage cancer, or PTSD, or Alzheimer's, whatever the disease states. Here we have 17 that have been approved for medical use. But for me, I think where my passion lies is to be able to demonstrate and show, whether it's at a federal level, and I do it already now at a state level, that yes, medical cannabis can assist and help with some of the disease states. And I would like to see us be able to use the data that's already out there. Some of the national data, NIH has supported data regarding medical cannabis. And so that data should help us make decisions on whether or not medical cannabis can help with different disease states. For me, it's about how can we demonstrate through evidence-based literature that medical cannabis is useful in certain disease states.
Lisa, is there any efforts underway right now, even grassroots? Because I agree with you. Going back, there's studies out there. You're back in the 80s and 70s, and this conversation has been a long one.
I would like to see, I think that would be something that I would be really interested in. We've done it here in the state of Georgia, and I have taken over, commandeered my medical director in Florida. And so sometimes we just we have these really intellectual conversations. I'm like, okay, show me the data. I want to see it. And when I look at the data, some of these studies have been run by like the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute.
Exactly.
the institutions
Exactly.
in NIH. And I'm like, so the stuff is here. So how do we package it to make the federal government understand we've already done the research? The research is here.
Mm-hmm.
The research is in Israel. The research is international. So it's valid research. And so when I say all that, what comes to mind is maybe they don't want to see the research.
What will be interesting is to use some of the current technology and harvest, right? Do a meta-analysis of all that data and see what we come up with. So these are some of the areas I'd love to follow up with both of you. This is near and dear. My wife is a sociologist from University of Chicago, and so we're, doing IH and that sort of thing. I was actually using a new tool. It's called, and I'm not gonna, it's a rabbit hole. It's called InfraNotice, and the concept is old, right? It's text pattern analysis, and so you could add in. I just took her dissertation and uploaded the PDF, and then it creates this whole nodal visualization, and then you could dig into it. And so while the concept has been out there, they've added an API, right, with GPT-3 and 4. And so you could do ideation and that sort of thing. And so if there's that body of, now it would be interesting just to play around with it from a regulatory perspective. These studies that you mentioned going back whenever, I could just put in some really light criteria and see what it comes up with. And then you could do the nodal analysis around that. So I'd love to have some follow-up around that, as well as some of the areas that you were describing.
Excellent. I would love that too. I think we can easily do some quick data dumps with AI and get started in a real way.
Absolutely.
Like I shared before, we're very young industry. And we're a politically charged industry, to Lisa's point. There's a lot of areas where we can go fast, but there's a lot of areas where we continue to see some significant roadblocks that are not going to be removed anytime in the near future. So, yeah, so more to come around that. But yeah, you're absolutely correct on that.
Excellent. And to hone in just briefly on that, from both of your perspectives, when do you think there could be some major headway with respect to some of these areas?
AI is coming now. It's
AI is here.
It's not going to, I say our industry is young, but there's a lot of independent initiatives going on within it. It's just not federal. So it's not nationally deployed or executed. We just only have a few tools that are required right now that the states are somewhat comfortable with. And albeit those are not the most effective tools out there, but they're the tools that we have. So we use them. But AI is here, and I'm sure AI is growing somewhere quite nicely and will rear its head quite soon. And some of it's going to be first to market. So there are going to be some first to market initiatives that are going to come to be, and we'll see if they have some staying power and some effectiveness, and they'll start to be deployed quickly, because again, folks are looking at how can we optimize on service, how can we optimize on our staffing. You're looking at staffing in terms of being efficient, but also you're looking to minimize it wherever possible. And at the same time, you're looking at your operations. How do you optimize that? And that all starts with great data that goes back to shadowing great decision makers as you go through your business, so that you can improve on customer service through your bud tender education, your quality control, and your compliance, as Lisa alluded to, mitigating risk to customer and patient health, and then that inventory management piece, because service and operations, and of course, the bottom line, are always going to be the key, regardless of how we look at the business. If we're not making money and if we're not doing it in a way that is benefit for the customers and patients, we're out of business pretty quickly. We're on the verge of AI. It's here. It's happening. We'll see probably in the next 2 or 3 years some pretty big advances coming along. They're just somewhat dormant. So problem solving and decision making is where it's at with AI, and I can't wait to see what happens next.
Awesome. Lisa, any closing comments around that?
No comments. I think Faith did a fabulous job.
Bring the technology.
Yeah.
Bring the technology.
Well, I really appreciate the two of you taking the time out for this, as I call it, the MicroSummit. And we're planning for future episodes. And so I really would like to take a look at what's out there, follow up with you, and maybe on a follow-up episode, we actually deep dive some of the some of the tools that we've discovered and some of what's happening in that space as well.
I do want to thank you, Michael, and Retro 21 for opportunity to share today and to actually have a partner in crime, Lisa. It's good to see you, and it's just a great opportunity to be here. So thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
much.
Mike.